The 25th of June, 1983, Helena, Montana. In a remote part of the Helena National Forest in the Alhorn Mountains just off Warm Springs Creek Road, members of the Capital City Radio Club had got together to enjoy a picnic and some time in the great outdoors. The scenery was beautiful. A shallow river ran through the area, and a group of children were playing down by the water. One of those children was Nyleen K. Marshall. Nyleen was 4 years old and had been born on September 18, 1978. To parents Nancy and William, who got divorced not long after Nancy remarried Kim. Marshall, who adopted Nyleen Kim, said, "She was an angelic child, just the sweetest little girl you could meet." She was at the picnic with Nancy Kim, her older brother, and little sister. It was turning out to be a lovely day, but it would end with so many unanswered questions and a lifetime of music heartache. The children had gone down to the creek to play, and Nyleen had gone with them. When they all started to come back, Nyleen wasn't there. She had been playing with older children while the other kids explored a nearby abandoned cabin. The two had walked ahead of Nyleen, but when they turned around, she was gone. People were calling out her name and went looking down by the water, but she was nowhere to be found. As panic began to rise, everyone tried to hold on to the hope that she was somewhere nearby, but there was nothing. There was no trace of her anywhere. Law enforcement were called in, and before long, massive search and rescue operations were underway. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office knew that the area was going to be a big challenge, so they drafted in the Lewis and Clark search and rescue teams, and helicopters using heat-sensing devices were also deployed. Over the days that followed, nearly 3,000 searches were carried out. 2,800 volunteers, including many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of which the family were members of, were out in force combing through the area. Many of them didn't even know the family. They just wanted to help in any way they could. Dogs and planes were also used to comb through the area alongside those who were searching on foot. The FBI was soon drafted in, and divers were deployed to look in the mine shafts and bodies of water in the area. They even drained a pond, believing that maybe she had got too close and fallen in, but draining it turned up nothing. They hunted day and night for her, but none of these hunts yielded any results. How had a little girl simply vanished with no trace at all? As she was barefoot, she likely wouldn't have been able to get very far. She hated walking without shoes. She was only 4 years old, so the idea of her walking off for miles seemed highly unlikely. A description of her was issued. She was 3'2", weighing 29 lb. She had brown hair, blue eyes, a small mole above her left eyebrow, and dimples on both of her cheeks. She was barefoot, wearing a yellow shirt and shorts. The surrounding area and terrain of the Alhorn Mountains was challenging for the most experienced of visitors to the forest, with mine shafts, dense woodland, and steep rocky cliffs. For a 4-year-old girl, it didn't even bear thinking about. One of those who joined in the search was Ken Gardner, who emotionally remembered how frantic the search was. "I can actually kind of feel it. Right now I just got kids of my own," he recalled. He also talked about how they had conducted the grid searches. "Stretch your hands out, so my arm out to your arm out to his arm." Huge areas of grid searches. Ralph Dunzo was then with the Lewis and Clark County Search and Rescue, and he was a key member of the search efforts for a long time, and even somewhat today. "That search still haunts me," he said. The searches had now been going on for 5 days, and they had been extremely difficult. The terrain was challenging, and the rain made it even more so, Ralph said. "I think about after day 5 with the elements and the potential of dangerous critters out on the hillside. It kind of came into our minds that we may not have a successful end to this. But they were not going to give up. Volunteers, in spite of the dangers, continued to arrive each and every day to pick up where they left off. Nobody could bear the idea of Nyleen being out in the wilderness by herself. Searchers went through the area on their hands and knees, praying they would find anything, and holding on to the hope that she had simply wandered off and become lost. A search dog named Juke was also brought in to help. Juke had helped find 37 people, and there were hopes that he would be able to find Nyleen. He did pick up a scent, but lost it soon after. Then some of the children who had been playing down by the creek and catching frogs with Nyleen told her mother something that would take the case in a whole new direction, and would force everyone to consider a sinister new possibility that Nyle had been abducted. Two girls had walked past her as she sat on the rocks by the beaver dams on Warping Creek. They said they saw a man dressed in a purple jogging suit. They said he was strange. He walked out from behind the trees and went straight over to Nyle. Nyle was reportedly heard saying, "My brother can run faster than you." One of the girls said she didn't recognize this man and didn't think he was one of the group who had come together for the picnic. According to Nancy, another child had seen him take a step closer to Nyle. The next day, another child said the same thing. The man was in a jogging suit and had apparently spoken to two other children, and Nyle, a 6-year-old boy, told the police that Nyle had said, "That man wants me to follow the shadow." One of them said they ignored the man and carried on walking. The other child said they were frightened, so decided to leave. Nyle stayed standing with him, and within a few seconds both of them were gone. What made what these children had said even more worrying was that they hadn't spoken to each other after Nyle went missing. This wasn't a story they'd concocted or come up with together. They were saying this independently. This new information changed everything. Nancy and Kim now believed Nyle had been abducted. And so to get her face and name out there, they issued thousands upon thousands of missing persons posters across the country, hoping that someone would see them and know something. Plenty of reported sightings and tips came in from all over the United States, but none of them could be corroborated. After 10 days of searching on the 4th of July, as the snow was starting to fall, the search for Nyleen Marshall was called off. For people like Ralph who had put in such effort, it was devastating. "We did everything we thought we could do, but we weren't successful," he said. The Marshalls were questioned about what had happened and what they'd seen that day. A normal procedure when investigating a missing child. It was later reported that the tactics used had upset the family greatly. An FBI agent told me point blank, "You killed your daughter." Nancy went completely nuts, and I was taken aback, especially since we had fought to get the FBI's help. Kim said, Nancy was stunned when an agent reportedly said, "She's dead, get over it." But Nancy was not prepared to give up or get over it. She wanted to find her daughter and bring her home. The Marshalls were also asked to send over various photographs of Nyle, her siblings, and Nancy as a child. And devastatingly, these photos would all be destroyed in Alab fire. A composite sketch was drawn up in there, where several people it reportedly resembled, including a man wanted in connection with the kidnap and murder of a child. After the sketch went out, the apartment of a suspect was searched, and a photograph of a young girl was found. She looked like Nyle, but after an investigation it was determined to not be her. This was yet another lead that went absolutely nowhere. As the months passed with still no sign of Nyleen Marshall, her case continued to grow colder. All of those involved were left in a state of limbo. How can you begin to move on when such a huge piece of your heart is missing that would all change the following year? The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had been founded the year before by several advocates, including John and Ray Walsh. John and Ray's 6-year-old son Adam had been abducted from a department store in Florida and murdered. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children was formed to provide a nationwide and coordinate response when children are reported missing or being exploited. One arm of their organization was a telephone line. The 27th of November, 1985. A call came through. The caller was anonymous and wouldn't identify themselves. He said that he was Nyle Marshall's kidnapper, and he still had her. This was extremely concerning. Even if it was a hoax, it needed to be thoroughly investigated. No stone could ever be unturned. This would also not be the last they would hear from this man. 2 months after the call, child find received an anonymous letter appearing to be from the same person. It said in part, "She is a sweet little girl, and it is because of how much I have grown to love her that I realize how much her family must miss her. But she has adjusted and seems happy. She trusts me and isn't afraid. We play a lot and she laughs when we clown around. She smiles and acts coy when I tease her. She giggles when we snuggle and hugs me. Sometimes for no apparent reason. I love her and I have her. I just can't let her go.